Monday, July the 20th, 2026, Planning Commission. And first order of business, approve agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, the agenda is approved. Public hearing. So welcome to the Planning Commission.
Minutes.
Oh, yes, item number 3, approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
A second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Number 3 is approved. Public hearing. So welcome to the public hearing for the Planning Commission. We are an advisory group, so just to kind of let you guys know, we don't make any decisions up here. We go through the information. We get some information from the city staff. We have a discussion, and then we open up public hearing. At the public hearing, you guys are welcome to come up to the mic, and please state your name and your address, please, first, and then ask your question. After the public hearing is closed, we'll come back up here for any questions, discussion questions, and then have a motion made, and then that information will get carried on to the city council. So with that, Harry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I don't know, are we switched to delegate? Good evening, Planning Commission. So the first item in front of you is a subdivision called Cavalry Hill Commons. The owner of the properties, subject property is Jeff Jandro through Jeff Jandro Properties LLC. The applicant is his surveyor, Tim Peterson, on his behalf. The location is 3105 Highway 60 West, or approximately that location. And it's actually 3 items in front of you today. So one is approving both the preliminary and the final plat for Cavalry Hill Commons. Another is for some right-of-way vacation. And then the last one is a variance for a dead-end street. Here's the subject property denoted by the red star in relation to kind of other things within Faribault. And the area outlined in yellow on this map are the 3 properties that are included as a part of this proposal. You'll notice that Cavalry Drive, or an unbuilt portion of Cavalry Drive, actually splits one of these properties. So that kind of tees it up for the different requests in front of you. One is to vacate that partially constructed right-of-way. That would be removing that right-of-way so that the plat would, or the preliminary and the final plat would be able to replat all 3 parcels into what will end up being 5 buildable lots, 2 stormwater lots, and then 3 outlots for future development. And then the variance, as I had mentioned earlier, it's for a dead-end road. The variance itself would allow the road to be approximately 2,050 feet long. So that's a variance of around 1,400 feet. Here's the area that is proposed to be vacated. It's outlined in red on this slide. The overall plat is on the left side. So Outlot A and Outlot B end up becoming the stormwater lots. And then there's Lot 1, which utilizes the what I guess is the current KGP office building, soon to be former. That lot is sort of expanded slightly as a part of this plat, and then Lot 2, 3, 4, and 5 are created. Those would all become buildable lots. Outlot C, D, And strangely enough, the parcel is actually bisected by the I-35 right-of-way, so Outlot E actually is on the other side, a lot closer to where that potential multifamily development was, near Walmart. On the right side is what we consider to be the variance distance. So, 2,050 feet sounds like quite a bit. If you're measuring all the way from where 38th Avenue intersects with Highway 60 and intersects with Calvary Drive, it starts there and goes all the way to the end where eventually a cul-de-sac will be built, a temporary cul-de-sac. There's very limited opportunities to go east or west in this area, which we'll talk about in a second, which is why the variance is being sought. In terms of the vacation, staff doesn't see any issues with it. One thing that I failed to put in here is that the former or soon-to-be former right-of-way will actually be turned into a drainage and utility easement. That's to facilitate the fact that I think there's either a water line or a sewer line currently within that right-of-way. So that easement will guarantee that that line continues to be there. The preliminary and the final plat does meet all of our requirements for zoning and subdivision standards, as well as a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, as well as the Highway 60 master plan, note that there is going to be a commercial or a mixed commercial and industrial subdivision in this area. And so the created lots, as well as the future development outlots, will facilitate that. In terms of the variance, there's a practical difficulty here in the fact that the area in between the cemetery and the right-of-way is pretty constrained. There's really not a whole lot of ability to go east or west to create a block or to create some sort of intersection, which is really intended as a part of having the rule for dead-end streets to be no longer than 650 feet, that there be some sort of greater connectivity or access. You just can't get that going through a cemetery. There's probably a lot of people that would be upset with that. And then the state has said no more crossings over I-35 at this point, or at least in this area. So we do feel like that there's some reasonable aspects to this, particularly because even our Highway 60 master plan doesn't denote any east-west connections in this area. This is a very restricted part, but we do intend for this area to become developed and productive parts of the city. In summary, we do feel like a lot of these proposals meet our comprehensive plan and our zoning requirements. So you do have three motions that you have to make tonight. The first one is for the ordinance, and that's to vacate the right-of-way. Second one would be the preliminary and final plat approval, and then the third one would be for the variance. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Harry. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I've just got one question, and I'm pretty sure I understand it, but on the platting part of it, the outlot E, the little orphan that's on the east side of the freeway, that doesn't look buildable.
It's not. It's actually at the end of, I'm trying to remember.
It's Old 4th Street is what.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not buildable, and creating an outlot doesn't make it buildable.
Right.
So someone's going to have to take that lot, and if they want it to be buildable, they're going to have to bring it in as a part of a larger development.
So this developer will own that piece of property. They'll be responsible for,
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Questions? With that, we'll open up the public hearing. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to come up and state your name and address.
Chair Jackson and members of the commission, my name is Jeff Jandrell. finally able to bring something to you. It's been a very difficult piece of property. That's why it's never sold with topo constraints, no water and sewer out there. And so finally, I think we have something that's going to really benefit the area. We do have a couple businesses interested in a local business that wants to expand their operation, and then we've been talking with the individual about potentially Hilton Inn. We got some real interest in there. I think property visibility of highway commercial. And just wanted to answer any questions that you guys might have. Thank you.
And would anybody else like to come up? The mic's yours if you do. All right, well, we'll go ahead and officially close the public hearing and up for discussion.
I'd like to
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just ever so quickly, it's just, I'm sure Mr. Jandor and I are the only ones old enough to remember driving on that when it was Old Forest Street. Before the freeway was there, that street connected all the way out. So it was actually a fairly heavily traveled piece of road. Over the years, the city knew eventually we'd be vacating part of this. 20-some years ago, there was a big box developer that was looking at kind of the southern piece of this property, and it almost happened. So this vacation makes perfect sense. I mean, it's not an alarm at all. It's been in the plans for a very long time.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, one carries.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2026 to approve the preliminary and final plats for Calvary Hill Commons.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. A2 moves. And
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, if you're ready, on the variance, I'll make the motion, but before I make the motion, the variance that did get my attention in Harry's presentation was absolutely right, that large of a number for a variance on a cul-de-sac gets your attention. We have historically been reluctant to do variances that long. In this particular case, it makes perfect sense. And also in the presentation that it is part of a master plan where that would continue on south. What brought me comfort was hearing that it's a temporary. So that said, I would move that we approve the resolution in front of us as presented for the variance on Calvary Hills Commons.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ed beat you. All right, any discussion? I will say that, Ed, I don't believe that Harry had brought it up, but Dusty needs to go out there and felt no issues with it as well, so it's nice to have the fire chief's blessing as well. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. A3 carries. And Harry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the second item, or the second project in front of you, is a conditional use permit for a residential care facility. This is at 3105 Cardinal Avenue. The owner of the property is Patrick Cashin. The applicant is actually Michael McHugh on behalf of a company called Midwest Recovery. It's for a residential care facility for 32 patients. Here is where the red star is where the residential care facility is proposed in relation to different parts of Faribault. And then here's kind of a closer in location map. So you'll notice as we kind of look a little bit more at this particular property, This is actually a pretty new apartment complex. It was sort of built in collaboration with the property just south of it. There's a conditional use permit that was passed for both of these buildings to be constructed. The property is C2, so to do multifamily does require a conditional use permit. So there are some aspects of this that we'll probably want to talk about, parking, shared trash and all that, but the applicant has addressed a lot of those concerns. The request is for a 32-patient residential care facility. It is a facility that will be helping people overcome addiction, and it is in an existing multifamily structure. So a few different aspects of this project. One that had staff concern from the beginning would be parking. The applicant actually has addressed quite a bit of that. None of the patients will have their own cars, so there won't be 32 cars parking at this location. Staff will be the only people bringing cars to this location, to and from. There might be a passenger vehicle in order to take patients to an off-site location, which is actually where they'll be receiving care. This is really more of a residence for these patients. There's just some change at the state level about what they need for licensing, and so this is really the cause for the conditional use permit. Nothing is changing about the outside. Building is going to stay as is. So it is going to be, it's going to fit well, in staff's opinion, with the adjoining apartment building as well as with the surrounding subdivision. There's a lot that the applicant has addressed in order to make sure that this is an appropriate use at this location. They've gone ahead and they've talked to building code. Building code has actually come out and taken a look. There's actually minimum or a very small number of changes that need to be made to the building in order to make this compliant from a building code standpoint, which they're happy to do. Trash will actually be shared, and because the property owner owns both this and the adjoining southern property, it would be easy to set up some sort of shared trash situation. They have the parking spaces that they need for sure, as well as 4 additional. So really, in summary, this meets our comprehensive plan and our zoning requirements. So we are recommending that you forward this conditional use permit to City Council, recommending approval.
And any questions for city staff?
Mr. Chair, I've got one, and it's really crazy technical. But when you had said that we had previously done a conditional use permit on the 2 apartment buildings, is there language in the CUP, or do we need to add it that says that this supersedes the other one? Because it doesn't look like we're repealing the other one, so there'd be 2 CUPs on the same building?
Mr. Chair, that's a really good question. I almost viewed this as I did think about this a little bit. I think where I landed, and we don't have to go this route if we don't want to. We can clarify it in the conditions. The way that I viewed it is that the conditional use permit is only good as long as you are using it, and so you could theoretically just say, look, we've got a conditional use permit to do this other use. We're not going to do the multifamily. We'll stop it, and then after a year it becomes null and void on that property. It would still apply to the other property. So things that would apply generally to both properties still apply to the other, as well as anything specific on that southern property. But my thought would be, just let it expire. We could repeal it just to, to your point, just to make it clearer.
I actually think the other conditional use permit, part of it was because of the distance to the wetlands. There were a lot of overlapping approvals on that. If has more tentacles.
Mr. Chair, trust me, I wasn't looking for trouble here. It was a question that I wanted to make sure that we had asked, that had been thought through. You're right that, and I think Leslie's right on, that if we put any language in here about repealing, conditional use permit 2024 dash whatever, it could open up a much larger can of worms than any of us want. So we have done our due diligence and really nerded out on the details, so I'm fine.
Okay.
Well, and I can understand because this may come up every 4 to 8 years, how they want to view the license.
Yeah, the previous approvals for this piece of property was in 2020. Conditional use permit for the cash in addition apartments in the commercial 2020-119 variances for wetland setbacks and buffer requirements. And then further, there's 2020-120 conditional use permit for multifamily dwelling in the C2. So there's a lot of backstory here, so.
So, I guess, Mr. Chair, maybe the answer would be that, in terms of the wetland, that sounds like it's covered by a separate variance. As long as that variance is being held to, that variance is still in effect, as long as it's being used. And then, in this case, they're not proposing any additions. So exactly what was approved as part of that variance is what's moving forward. We could potentially remove the conditional use permit for this property, but, we could also just let it expire because it won't be used for a year or more, at least I assume that it won't.
Doesn't the original CUP cover both buildings? So then there'd have to pass one for just one building? Is that how I'm understanding that? If we repealed it? Is that kind of how that would work?
Well, it's not that we're repealing it, it's you have a better way of,
Well, that's essentially what I'm saying is like, look,
Previous
we could.
CUP covered 2 addresses, and now we're just working with, I think what I'm understanding, previous CUP covered 2 addresses, and now we're just working with 1. Has the city attorney looked at this at all?
No.
Phone call.
I am unable to provide that tonight. So
No,
what would
I
you like to do?
understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I could, and I think I know but once we pass whatever we pass tonight, the city attorney sees it before it goes in front of the city council.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gets where you want to be. Before the city council gets it, the attorney looks at it. Honestly, I asked the question just to make sure we didn't jam ourselves up down the road. And Harry's explanation is really well thought through, that as soon as this new one comes in, the previous conditional use permit for this building becomes outdated. It just kind of happens automatically, but the attorney will have the opportunity to review it before city council votes on it.
before we move any further, is everybody clear? Any additional questions or discussions? Yes.
I'm only concerned about any security issues that might occur because of the facility that this is, and if we have any preview to require additional, security at the building or at the doors, being that this is people recovering from something, it has potential for going bad. Something we need to worry about, or is we just can't, not in a preview?
Mr. Chair, I think what we can do, is focus on, different performance standards, general things that we're able to talk about. We could talk about screening, we can talk about, requiring certain things in terms of performance standards. I guess my question would be how, in what manner would the proposal come forward? Like, would it be a request for additional employees, to have, badge, they have to badge in order to get into the building? I'm trying to understand, I think, where we're going here.
Well, in 6 years, we didn't have any comments sent to you, correct?
No,
So if someone was concerned about it,
So this is already being used as that facility?
yes, Mr. Chair. So it's currently essentially a multifamily residence that the Midwest Recovery business is renting from the property owner. It's currently under contract. There are just things that have changed at the state level that require them to license this location as well. So that's why the conditional use permit's coming forward.
Cameras and gates and things.
Mhm.
any additional questions or concerns? Yes, Sam?
I would assume that because of the they have licensing protocols and requirements from the state that they need to abide by for as far as safety that
Yes.
they're already working with, correct?
Yep.
All right, do we have a motion?
Oh, it's a
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thinking about everything. We will open up the public hearing now. Please move forward to the mic. Please state your name and address.
Owen Katona, I'm the program director for Midwest Recovery. It's actually 3015 Cardinal Avenue. I think that's what we have it listed on everything.
Okay.
It's a typo. But yeah, it is a recovery residence, and we've been there for 2 years now. And as far as, I know the security thing came up, we do have cameras both on the outside and inside of the building. We do have security stuff in place, and DHS does have requirements for us. The issue for us now is what we currently are is a freestanding room and board license. Next year, DHS sunsets that license, and so what we're applying for is the new license that is a replacement of that. It's basically the exact same thing we're doing, but they're just changing the name of it and a couple of the requirements for what we do. What they're asking that we be licensed for is to be able to provide treatment within the building if need be. We'll still be providing our group services at our downtown location. So basically, they'll still just be living there. It's the exact same thing we're doing. We just have to change what DHS is licensing us for, since they're getting rid of the freestanding room board. They're just getting rid of that as a whole on the state level. So all of our things basically stay the same, but we'd have to have the ability, if need be, to provide in that building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And would anybody else like to come forward? All right, we were closing the public hearing, and we're coming back here for discussion.
Mr. Chair, I can make the motion if we're ready for it. Move we would approve the conditional use permit for this residential care facility, correcting the address in the resolution to 3015 Cardinal Avenue. It just looks like a typo all the way through the resolution, so fix that before it goes to City Council.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Michael has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. 4B passes. 4C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the last item in front of you is a variance. This is actually for the Genio turkey store and facility. Depending on where you are, it's either 1116 4th Avenue Northwest or 512th Street Northwest. The applicant is Michael Staben on behalf of Genio and Hormel. The proposal is a variance. The property, I'm sure that everyone knows where the Genio Turkey Store is, but here it is in relation to different parts of Faribault. It is tucked into the area in between the lake and a lot of residential. There's been a lot of discussion over time about screening and how this property transitions to the residential properties that are nearby. There is also a rail line that is along the southern part of these properties and sort of goes northeast from that. The variance in front of you is, it's a little different than our normal variances. It's actually for fence height of 8 feet within a front setback. Normally, the limitation for a fence height within a front setback, even on industrial property, would be 4 feet. Here, they're looking for 8. Where it's a little strange, this property. From staff's point of view, we're looking at pretty much 7th Avenue as well as 13th being the frontage areas for this variance and where they want to put this fence at this 8-foot height. Sorry. What you see on the left would actually be probably most of that fence would be a sort of a screen version of a chain link fence for about 9 feet, and then the top, or I'm sorry, for 7 feet, and then the top 1 foot, which would bring it to 8 feet, would be barbed wire. Barbed wire is allowed in industrial, so that's not really an issue tonight, but just the general height is the issue tonight. One thing to note about the image that's on the right, there are some areas where this fence would actually go into a floodplain. That's something that we have been working with them as well as with the DNR about. They have actually gone ahead and provided some information to staff from a licensed engineer that the fence won't cause any issues and won't cause any rise in the just in case that there was a flooding event. Really, the discussion tonight is more focused on what's the reasoning behind having an 8-foot tall fence right at the property line. There are some practical difficulties that the facility is working with. It is identified by the FDA as part of its critical infrastructure for food, as well as for food security within the United States. They do need to control access into and out of the property. So there are some things with that. Having it screened would also help in terms of providing more of a secure facility. There are some limitations, like physically, particularly where we're talking about along the 13th Street part of its frontage. There is a parking lot that's pretty close, as well as some drainage swales. And so really, in order to kind of navigate all these different elements that are within the same space, having it on the property line is the best option, rather than putting it well into the parking lot and having to reroute their entire parking lot just to accommodate that. So there are some reasonable aspects to this request. From a public welfare safety viewpoint, there is a requirement to, and definitely a need in order to make sure that this facility is secure. So we are recommending that you forward this resolution to City Council recommending approval.
Thank you, Harry. And questions for city staff? Sam?
This is on the riverfront?
No, the property itself is not on the lake. There would actually be the city park and then a road and then it would be on their property, which would be behind that.
One just logistic thing, and Harry, you may have caught it from the time the packet went out, but the cover page memo is right and the resolution is correct, but everything in between is the variance for Cal.
I did,
Okay.
I did see that. I did correct that.
Just wanted to make sure you had it before it went to city council, that's all.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I actually caught that like halfway through the day, and I realized that the wrong Word document got uploaded. So the correct Word document is now out there.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes,
question. So Harry, you said that the variance is for the height, but then you also were mentioning, we also have regulations about it can't be on the property line. You said something about avoiding swales and pulling it back. Is that like, or just like a general rule of thumb that we follow?
Yeah, so in this situation, it's a variance of this height within the front setback. It would typically have to be set back the same distance that a building would. I apologize for not explaining this very well earlier. It's to have a fence of this height within the front setback. Our ordinance limits it to 4 feet in height, and that's probably, to allow those that are, if you're in an ambulance or if you are delivering something that you can clearly see where you're taking it. In this situation, you kind of know where you're taking it. It's a pretty big facility. People are pretty aware of it. We're not worried about that aspect of it. I think from staff's point of view, we definitely see the safety concern of making sure that this is a pretty secure facility. So really, it's for an 8-foot tall height fence, 4-foot variance within a front setback.
Okay.
I do go down that road a lot because my daughter plays. And the concern I have is the way it's going to look. Because it's a beautiful area, but right on the lake and the park there. And you put this 8-foot steel fence there, it looks like a prison. It's like you go down the park over there, the county park, prison fence right there. Very obvious, it's very tall, an 8-foot fence is a pretty tall fence. Wondering if there's any concern or way we can say you need to build like a 4-foot swale, 4-foot berm, and then a 4-foot fence, because it'll really kind of ruin that side of the road. I understand the security needs. I just wonder if there's any way we can make them present a
Sure. I think with that, so we do have the applicant here. And that's probably a better question for them, what space concerns that they would have. I know that the swale gets really close to the property line. I don't know if you could feasibly create a 4-foot tall berm within that area.
Okay, what about changing the type of fence? Real decorative fences that are 8 feet tall, there's chain link fence, which is probably the worst thing you want to put there is just because it's on that park front, and you drive down that street and you see the parking lot, which is not nice to look at either. And I understand the need for the fence, but then I always go by there thinking, boy, that tree line would be a great place to put some residences because they're facing right out. Just a nice looking area if you face the lake. Face back, it's not. 8-foot chain link fence is more prison-ish than beautification. Maybe we can include both. You got to beautify it at the same time. You're change the fence type.
Yeah, again, that's a really good question for the applicant in terms of did they look at other fence types or not?
No, we don't have a requirement though to, this is going to be it's almost a wall. That's really what it is. Protective wall for sight and for safety. So since we have such a proximity to the city park, which will never change, in the waterfront right there, I think it just at least deserves a step up in the quality.
Which part of the fence you're talking about? You're talking about that's right adjacent to
Well, there's-
7th, where
there's
it
a street.
turns and goes around the corner?
Yeah, there's
So-
a street, then it goes, parking lot, then it turns into like so this whole area is facing the park, which is facing the water. Decorative areas where people hang out and play,
Can we see the map?
picnics.
That is in the floodplain. Limited, like if it's solid, they can't, the
Well, I'm
floodplain
not
can't
saying
run
solid
under there.
fence. I'm saying I'm just trying to change the fence type so that at least when you go down this road, since it is
There
in
it is.
proximity to a beautiful park and a nice canyon lake, building is to be a decorative fence as opposed to a chain link fence, just because. Yeah, it's going to be there forever. It's going to be there a long time, and chain link fence is the worst case scenario for any type of closure. Let's just upgrade the fence, and then it's fine. I'm just worried about the visual and the effect of what it's going to be because it looks terrible, and you got the barbed wire on top, and you know you can have decorative fences that have security on them without having barbed wire too. You know those real nice tubings that kind of go up and turn in, and you know come to a point. They just look good, but they don't look oppressive. We put that in there saying, yes, you can have the fence, but it needs to be a decorative fence that enhances the community.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to recommend that the applicant, that we open up for a public hearing so that we can sort of explore that with the applicant to see what they're willing to do before we move forward with coming up with wording for that. I'm
agree.
uncomfortable from a staff standpoint of going that direction without the applicant involved.
And I'm agree with Harry. We'll have the public hearing in just a moment. And again, too, if you're the one that makes the motion, you can also. And do we have any additional questions before we open up public hearing? All right. Well, we are opening up public hearing. Any of those that would like to come up and comment, please come up front. Please state your name and address, please.
David Hormel Foods, Austin, Minnesota. I don't want to talk, but I apparently am going to talk. So currently, there's rundown temporary fence in that whole area anyway. So as far as for the beautification, the green slatted fence would be much better looking than what's currently there. And as far as for building a berm, I believe there's already a berm. I don't know if that was put in for flood mitigation reasons or what, but there's a small berm around the west and kind of towards those houses there. The berm would get difficult because the parking lot is there, the height of it, you know, it'd be a very steep, unmaintainable berm as far as for the sides of it. There's no slats where the treat area is, and that's due to the flood water. We have to keep that open. I believe the engineer's letter stated that the chain link as a chain link would meet either the zero rise or well be within the 0.5 allowable rise. I would differ. I think it's going to make it look more beautiful because you're not going to see the feathers and the birds and the trucks full of birds coming and going. That's obviously a difference of opinion, so I'm not going to go down that I think it's going to improve it. A solid fence would not meet the flood mitigation at all. We would not be able to even fence in the entire west portion of that area, or at least the northwest area, just due to the flood fringe area. It's also somewhat to keep some lights out. We didn't want the lights of some of the car parking to wake up there's a few residential homes on the northeast area. I won't get into beautification of those backyards. Also moving the fence in just to not get inside of their property. Over time, I think there's been some infringements and some parking of stuff kind of near or on our property. We're not getting into that. We're moving the fence to not unintended, I believe. So that's what we put forth. That's what we're putting around all of our facilities around the entire country. There's been a fairly big push for security. The slats are added mainly for just visibility. So turkey processing facility is not a beautiful process. Neither is a hog facility, or, you know, none of those are beautiful processes. We love to eat them. We don't like to see them processed. So keeping that visual out, especially in that area, is, we don't typically add the slatting to all of our fences for, one, they're not in areas like this, so we don't need to add that for visual impairment or beautification. If you have any questions for me, that's basically my spiel.
Sure. Question, I don't know the area well enough. Is there room to compromise here related to the beautification, to have the fence, whether it's chain link or whatever material, have shrubbery or something in front of it, so the one side has that beautification side where your side is being performing?
To answer that, there is a section between the two driveways there that has some large trees, and we're actually moving the fence back on the into our property farther to keep those pine trees between. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, oh, thank you, Harry. Between those two driveways, there's close to a dozen full-grown pine trees. The fence is being moved inside of that just to keep that
Yeah, if you
aesthetic.
can make it more dense potentially with more pines or whatever it may be, that's.
That area there, I don't know that you can hardly see between. Don't quote me on that. But I do know that area is fairly heavily pined. Then I know there's some hardwood trees in the area kind of on the north planted along there. I can't answer who planted those or when they were planted. 6 to 8 trees along where his red cursor is.
You might not be able to know this, but what is in, I think the part of the fence that's in question is the part that's along 7th, the west side, where that encompasses all of those trees. That doesn't look like there's any operations within those trees. I think that's the part that we're concerned about, because it is across the street from the city park. I understand that is in the floodplain, and that's why, it has to be open. But it doesn't appear like there's truck traffic in there. Do you understand what I'm asking? So what kind of operations do you have within those trees that the fence is pushed all the way to the curb line or the property line?
To be fair, I'm not high enough up in Hormel to know if we're ever going to add. I know we are really good at adding and building and expanding. There's no, as of this very moment, plans to do anything with the treat area. There are plans to do some projects within the acquired. We just acquired the west half of that property in
Genova.
January, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But I won't say that there won't ever be a plan to expand. That would be the logical place to expand.
Well, I know personally you, Genio, purchasing Genova to consolidate more and then also traffic outside of your lot has been very helpful.
And the two gates on the west northwest, they're not going to be really operational just because we don't want traffic to go out that way for multiple reasons. the main, we're trying to get everything to go through so there really won't be, those gates will be basically, they're there for necessity when needed, but not daily, not weekly, not even monthly. Two drives on the west. There's really, we're trying to get it to where there's one entry point. Unfortunately, due to a property line, we're not able to put a secure fence across the main drive. There's a property that, the way it's drawn up, I don't believe on this map, it maybe doesn't show it, but the rail, is it Northern Progressive or something like that? They actually own a sliver of our driveway, so we can't close that off. But the goal is to keep all traffic coming in where his red cursor is.
And would anybody else like to come up for public comment? Twice. All right, public hearing is now closed and back to us for discussion.
Thanks for the information. I do agree that it shouldn't be solid, it shouldn't be bermed, but I do also agree that it needs to be a decorative metal fence. Aluminum format with vertical slats up to 8 feet. And they can also take care of the security on the top of those if they choose the right fencing, because those fences are designed to look good and to be secure at the same time. I would say for the proximity of the entire area circled in red can be that fence type. And I think it would improve the park area and it would still provide the security that you need. So it's still open, allows the water to flow through. It's decorative, so the park doesn't look inhibited or somehow confronted with an ugly fence or almost like a wall. Still gives you everything that you need, but it gives the city everything that the city would need.
Are you really just concerned about
No, because the residence is over here too. Drive down there, I've been down there many times. You see the parking lot, you see the factory. This fence is a good idea, but if you make the fence a decorative part of that facility, then you've eliminated all the concerns that even the residents would have.
Mr. Chair, they would have to go back to the civil and the drainage engineer because that vertical slat could really impede
No,
that
they're not.
floodplain.
They're a half inch.
I'm just saying, like, they already went to the drainage engineer and said, yes, we can get a chain link fence through. Not saying that they can't do it. That is just a step they will have to do, and possibly if it impedes, they have to go through FEMA.
No
I'm just saying.
difference, and the bottom part of that fence is still open and exposed.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying the DNR will make them prove that. I'm not saying they can't use that fence. I'm just saying they will have to do that. That'll be just part of the calcs they'll have to run.
Chair?
A couple of things. I'll weigh in on the fence in a second, but the map that we've got in front of us, Harry, it's not Cannon Lake, it's Lake Faribault. In the state trail on the bottom part, that's the rail line. Is this like an official map, or where did this come from?
This came from the applicant.
Okay. Yeah, because it's the lake's wrong and it's not a trail, it's a rail line. That's just what threw me off. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we hadn't renamed the lake. As far as the fence, in my other job, I deal with a lot of federal stuff, and Emily's absolutely right. FEMA has got some incredibly strict rules in the floodway. This may be the only fence that's going to work without going back to engineering, going back quite a bit. And between FDA and USDA, absolutely, they are making these guys put up serious fencing. I toured a few turkey growing farms out around Wilmer, and they are just like some of the most secure facilities. You got to know a guy who knows a guy to get in on those farms. So I get why they have to do this. I'm not a big fan of 8-foot fences facing a park. I totally get it. I wish there was a better way. I will also add, I know that the history on the 4-foot front yard setback, think of it in a residential neighborhood at an intersection. You don't want some yahoo to put an 8-foot fence up right on his property line because he can't see around the corner. That's why that language is there. It's not necessarily germane here in this. Personally, am I in love with this fence? Am I going to show up at the ribbon cutting and cheer? Probably not. But it's got to function. Like you said, this is livestock processing facilities are pretty rough and tumble places. USDA and FDA is telling them to put up a really big giant fence. And I don't want to be the one who says no.
I don't necessarily want to be the person to say no either, but I don't want it to look like a prison. I understand the need. I understand what they need to do. I don't want to be the person to say no, but I also don't want my neighborhood to have a prison.
So do we find ourselves with a practical difficulty because of the regulations?
I think there is a difficulty. I deal with these fences all the time. I've done secure fences, I've done non-secure fences. This one will not inhibit any water at all, and it can be very pretty, and it won't affect security, and it won't affect the look of the building when it's all done. It'll just improve things. So don't agree that we're stuck at a chain link fence. I think they can get a decorative fence. They can get them super high security. They can do whatever they want with these fences. They come in many varieties and forms. They just need to choose the right one, which are all in a catalog, and just pick out a good one. Aluminum, vertical slat, security on the top or not. Depends on what you want to do with it. So there's nothing out of the ordinary of what we're talking about.
Mr. Chair, let me ask a question of my fellow commissioners. I'm reminded it's an old saying. I've had some baseball managers said it. There's only 3 true outcomes in a baseball game. You win, you lose, or it rains. The 3 scenarios here are we make a motion to approve this and it passes. We make a motion to deny the request and it goes forward to city council that way. The rain option, and I'm never a fan of this, but is there a logic in tabling this for 2 weeks? Let the applicant have time to sit down and talk to our city staff, just, to address Michael's questions here, because, I mean, again, you're an architect. You know more about fences. You'll forget more about fences than I'll ever understand in my life. I hate tabling things, but in this particular case, buying us 2 weeks to kind of clarify that stuff, does that make sense to the group? And I also am aware that there's the 60-day clock that's ticking, so I'm looking at Harry. Is there enough room on that 60-day clock to punt for 2 weeks?
Mr. Chair, I think that we do have time. One recommendation that I have before tabling anything or continuing discussion on an item would actually be to bring the applicant back up and see if they are willing to consider being tabled or if they do want a decision today. That's typically what I would prefer to provide to an applicant, to at least give them a chance to decide, look, is this worth going back and looking at this and coming back in 2 weeks, or do they just want to move forward?
So, sir, I know you enjoy talking. Would you? Oh, I wanted to check with you first.
Can I ask just another question? I'm not looking for a solution here, but I'm just trying to throw things on the table. We talked about beautification, we talked about 8-foot. Security is a big issue here. Out of the box here, is there enough land there or space there to actually put in a double fence where it's something that's semi-beautiful in front that the residents / anything can enjoy, and behind that is your chain link or whatever security that you feel is necessary? I know I'm adding a cost to all this, but in reality is I'm looking for a solution, because if we pushed it off 2 weeks, we still have to come back with something, right? I'm asking out of pure, I don't know.
They don't have to reopen it.
Not possible?
They can invite you back, so.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that they're coming back with something.
Yeah,
These
Mr.
are for
Chair,
clarification questions.
Yeah, you
sorry.
can invite him back up.
Okay, sorry about that. If we don't proceed this route, there's a highly, I would say it's a very high chance we won't pursue putting it in, at least not anytime soon, just because our budgets are set. Each facility has their own budget. Hormel obviously has its budget. Facility. The plan was already put forward. Obviously, that is not any of your guys' concern. Just being open. If it does not go through, it will probably not go through for a while. If it goes through. One, due to the winter coming, they're not going to probably work through the winter on it. And it will probably get tabled and pushed to the back and probably not done. I'm not going to say ever. I don't know if Hormel or Genio has ever put in a decorative style fence on, I think I can say that with almost 100% surety. They've not ever installed a decorative security fence around any of their facilities around the U.S. I'm not arguing your concerns at all. I don't understand how this passes or doesn't pass, but I'm looking for a yes or a no. If it's a no, I mean, I don't know if it's a 6, if it's 3 and 3 or 2 and 5, I don't care the outcome. Sorry, I do highly care the outcome, but I would prefer a yes or a no. Either we don't do it and we let it stay as it is and you see into the facility and the birds, that's up to you, or a no. And status quo stays the same for indefinitely.
And oh, sorry. Do we have any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair, let me take a swing at something. I forgot to count myself for a second. I thought we had 5. Again, go back to my, you win, you lose, it rains. The scenario here is, again, it's a reminder we're a recommending body to the city council. We're doing our job absolutely right now. I think somebody should make a motion to do something. We can vote on that motion, and I would bet that it's either going to be 4-2 or 3-3, and we've made our recommendation to the city council. We've done our job. That's okay.
Any additional discussion questions?
I can make a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve it with a consideration that they use a decorative aluminum 8-foot fence. Security and beautification to the area.
We have a motion. Did anybody need any clarification?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any
Mr. Chair, I would like some clarification. Assuming that this gets built, and if we're only talking about 7th Avenue getting this decorative fence, was the intention to include 13th Street as well?
I didn't see it circled as part of this information, but I would say if that's on a residential side, then yes, wrap it
Sure, okay, yes. So if we go back to the diagram, it is on the 13th Street side because it starts 13th Street to go into what could be 13th or 7th Schrodinger Street, and then it goes into 7th Avenue.
around. I guess I would include the entire length of the fence.
Okay. I think that still requires a second because that is a change.
I'll still second that.
All right, we have a first and a second.
Mr. Chair, if I could, before we vote, I'm always reluctant to change the essence of a resolution in front of us. An applicant has come and asked for a request, made a request. Let's say it's a homeowner that wants a variance to do a bigger garage. Our job is to say, yeah, you can build the bigger garage, or no, you can't build the bigger garage. It's not my job to tell him how big he can build his garage. Let me finish. Let me finish. I've got the floor. So where I'm going with it is I'll vote against this motion because it changes just the essence of really what their request is. Our job is to say, yeah, you can build the fence, or no, you can't build the fence. So I just wanted it on the record why I'm going to vote no.
Any additional discussion?
State statute does dictate that we can
Mr. Chair, I've been holding just because nobody specifically asked me yet about if the fence would actually change things from staff's point of view. If it was determined to provide some amount of, deterrence or some sort of, something that constricts the water flow, that is where I am going to start getting a little bit antsy, because within shoreland, at that point, you are required to get a conditional use permit for a fence that is constricting the water flow. If that is the way that we go, sure, that's fine. Just understand that, okay, we might be approving a variance with a requirement that then results in a conditional use permit. What I can't tell you, because I'm not an engineer, at least not licensed, what I can tell you is that I don't know if it's going to change things in terms of a no-rise determination for this. We have brought that letter in front of the city engineer. The city engineer does agree with the engineer that reviewed it, says that there will be a no-rise to this. So just a few things from staff's point of view on this.
Heather, will you please do a roll call?
Commissioner Ackman? No. Green?
Aye.
Miglio?
No.
Salt?
Aye.
Shaw?
No.
Chairperson Jackson?
No. All right, that motion fails. Do we have another motion?
So, Mr. Chair, that was going to be my next question. Do you want now a motion in favor of the resolution as presented?
Mr. Chair, so something has to come out of this. There has to be some sort of motion to council that gets passed. Otherwise, we're in this weird dead water situation. So the answer to the question is yes. There has to be some sort of motion, whether it's to deny it or to approve it or some other sort of motion. Again, the baseball at either, you either win, lose, or it rains.
Well, I assume I can't talk about if it rains. So do we have a,
So, Mr. Chair, then let me just make the opposite motion, see where this goes. That I would move that we approve the resolution in front of us as presented to approve the variance at 1116 4th Avenue Northwest and 512th Street Northwest.
we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ed has the second. And Heather, will you do a roll call, please?
Ackman? Green?
No.
Miglio? Salt?
No.
Shaw?
Aye.
Chairperson Jackson?
Aye. All right, motion carries. Item 5, requests to be heard are none. 6 is none, 7 is none. And on 8, board and commission updates and reports.
Mr. Chair, so the very last project that came through, and I'm blanking on what that was. No, it was the Randy's Foods project. So that did go through City Council. So that project is moving forward. I believe that there are some things to take care of with the DA, which the city attorney is working with staff about. Other than that, the other item is really what we'll cover in the work session, so I'm not going to steal my own thunder, future thunder.
Thank you. And 9, adjournment.
Make the motion, we adjourn?
Second? We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.